Brian. For those that are here, just kind of get an understanding of why we're doing this the way we're doing it. It's a unique opportunity, and again, roads are front and center. I mean, now that we're past the election, and I got to believe all of us are very excited about that. We get our TVs back. We don't have to worry about looking at the phone, and we're not as afraid to go to the mailbox right now. So with that being said, we continue to do what we do even throughout election season or no matter what at the Department of Roads. And there's an incredible amount of projects that have been going on and that are going to be happening. So every year we have to provide the list of projects, and we work with our locals to try to figure out how do we get them to understand how do we prioritize. And that list shortly will be going to the Board of Commissioners because obviously as a legislative body, they have to approve the projects in finality. But there's a lot that goes on before they actually get that list in that working relationship we have with the 27 municipalities that make up Macomb County. Macomb County Department of Roads is responsible for 41% of the roads in Macomb County. But understand this, and some people say, well, what about those townships? They don't really have a say in that. It's not theirs. A city, a village gets funding from the state. They have to take care of their roads. Well, there are still a lot of roads in those cities and villages that are county roads that we share responsibility with. Granted, they have a majority of their own roads in their own cities or villages, but that's not the case for the townships. Whether it's a subdivision and or any other road in those townships, we have a part in that. But understand that it's 50% funding needs to be matched by the locals. That's sometimes a kind of anomaly, or people don't understand that. They can't just say, or a township doesn't just say, hey, roads ain't my problem, county's got to fix it. Well, yes, we will help them fix those roads, but they still have to participate, whether it's to their general fund, whether they happen to have a millage, and some do, they have to participate 50% for that funding. And we say 50% because sometimes we're able to get money from the state and or the federal government that actually helps defer some of that cost. And the TIP program, which JP will talk a little bit more about in a little bit more detail, 80% of the funding we get for special projects here in Macomb County for some roads, which means then that 20% is matched by the county and the local, which really helps defer the cost. So as you can imagine, right now the biggest challenge we're having is with funding, and will continue to be the challenge. There isn't a road or a bridge we can't fix if we have the funding. And I've always said this, and I continue to say it. It's not about fixing the damn roads or fixing the damn bridges. It's about fixing the damn funding, okay? Because there isn't a road or a bridge we can't fix. And we prove that with many other projects. We talk about it, I think, to a great extent. Mound Road, and for good reason. There was no money at the state level, the county level, the local level to fix that incredible project that we had. And a problem that existed, especially when it was pothole season. The media was all over it. The public was all over us. And there was zero funding to deal with it. But we made a pitch to the federal government. We got the funding to fix that road. And it was a tremendous undertaking on behalf of our planning department, led by Brian and his road department, and the locals coming together to do that. So we're doing that with other roads too in Macomb County. We're working on trying to get federal funding for south of 696 on Mound Road. We're working on federal funding to deal with the bridge that goes, the 16-mile bridge that goes between the Van Dyke and Mound. There's incredible expense to that. We're not going to get it from state. We don't have the locals, so we're making an appeal to the federal government for more funding for that, as well as other projects too. So here today, we're going to talk a little bit about funding. We're also going to talk a little bit about the roads that we have already fixed and the projects we just got done with 2024, where we're headed in 2025. And that's what I'm going to be using Brian and JP for. And as I mentioned about the road funding, and again, that's a legislative responsibility. If they gave me the ability to make that decision, I would have already picked something on this list and said, let's move forward. It's unfortunate sometimes as a legislator, you got to be very cautious because public gets sensitive to if you're doing something to fix the funding, it means it's going to be an increase in cost to the public, and they don't like to just do that. However, we've got a great group of legislators right now that are trying to figure out how do they solve this problem? How do they get their counterparts on board? Because they know, there's no question about it, it is their responsibility to increase the funding for roads so we can fix more roads here in Macomb County as well as bridges. And as you can imagine, this list keeps growing. Last time I did this was about 4 or 5 years ago. I had this very diagram up, and I think we've added a couple to this list: the enhanced vehicle registration, EV tax, and regional mileage as other solutions they're talking about. But again, until such time as the legislature picks one of these or multiple or kind of a combination of them, we're going to be stuck with this deficiency in funding, and we get further and further behind when it comes to our roads. And as I mentioned, 41% of them are ours. But I can't thank our local municipalities enough for their working relationship. It's not about me, it's about we. What do I mean? Any local municipal leader can say, I want my road fixed. I get it. But it's at the detriment of another road that may need to be fixed. And so we come together, the Department of Roads are constantly having those conversations, engaging like we did for the projects in 2025. Where is the true need? In other words, then how do we do this fairly in making sure that those that truly need to be fixed are getting fixed because of the limited funding we have? Sure, does it mean another project may be put off? Absolutely. But that's the job that is sometimes the difficult work on behalf of the Department of Roads, Brian and his folks, in having those hard conversations. And we're fortunate that we've gotten to a place now where we're going to have 25% of those, or I should say we're going to have roads that we need to be fixed here in Macomb County for 2025 are going to be on the list. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to JP. He's going to talk a little bit about the funding issues that we've had, some things that our legislators helped us prevent from being a failure, and kind of give you a little bit of insight into that. So JP?
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I think we're really passionate about this topic with infrastructure because, as Mark highlighted, we're having these conversations in every single corner of the county. And what I'm here today is to highlight the approach that we have taken that is focused on detailed planning, dynamic partnerships, and dedicated investment. As you can see, we have seen historic investment and activity when it comes to the work that is being done by the Macomb County Department of Roads to enhance our roads and bridges across Macomb County. Our team is programming hundreds of millions of dollars annually in projects in every corner of Macomb County. And this is not done in a bubble. This is done in a dynamic ecosystem which engages our community leaders, local neighborhood associations, road builders, state transportation experts. And what it has yielded is 7 dozen primary local road projects that are being facilitated currently right now, 40 plus asphalt and concrete projects that are rehabilitating our roadways. We're engaged in subdivision projects throughout our townships in the county. And most importantly, we are maximizing every single funding opportunity that is out there. That whether, as Mark highlighted, it's the commitment that we have with our locals to bring in those match dollars, the money that we get from the state of Michigan through the State Transportation Fund, and how successful we have been bringing in regional and federal grant opportunities. Now, more than any other point in time in the Department of Roads history, we have more knowledge about the assets that we have across our community. We know the condition that we're in, and most importantly, we have a dynamic mix of fixes that we can deploy and triage to ensure that those assets are in good working condition. This allows us to be aggressive in the way that we're scoping projects, as Mark highlighted, to prioritize them and ensure that our triage is as impactful as possible, and that there are no efficiencies in this continuous feedback and engagement. The thing is, as Mark highlighted too, is we're all clearly aware of the obstacle with regards to road funding. And assuming that road conditions in Macomb County level off, it would take us 30 years to fix the current deficient road and bridges that we have here in Macomb County. That's because as we sit here today, there's a $2.5 billion need in Macomb County alone to fix our roads and bridges. $2.5 billion. And that is a big number. And we don't highlight these figures to be alarmist. We don't highlight to showcase failures, and we don't highlight it to place blame. However, we use it to inform us in settings like this and reinforce the level of investment and engagement that is needed to keep our communities vibrant. Alone, we can't fix the funding deficiencies that have been highlighted. But most importantly, what we view now is the strategic role that we have to be an advocate for additional road funding. With the leadership of Executive Hackle and with the expertise that we have with our Department of Roads, we are convening legislators and elected officials at all levels of government to target road funding as a priority. Credit to Director Santo and our team at the Department of Roads. For this past year alone, we have taken the active steps to engage Macomb County's Legislative Caucus at the state level to facilitate information sessions on local project priorities we have with our infrastructure, and also looking at outdated funding mechanisms that are at the state level. These policy and project briefings have provided us with an avenue to engage our legislative partners and to examine those areas where we as Macomb County can highlight our local road priorities and bring them to the front of the line, not only to receive additional grants, but to make ourselves eligible for where the dollars are going to be, that whether it's a regional grant opportunity with SEMCOG, whether it's MDOT developing a new program where we can highlight Macomb County's needs, or even at the federal level and continuing the impact and successes that we've had with our partners at the Department of Transportation and Federal Highway. Undoubtedly, every time that we start this conversation, it always starts with the antiquated Public Act 51 and the funding that we get from the State Transportation Fund. But we've also expanded these conversations to highlight other alternative funding options. Regional efforts, as Mark illustrated, with regards to the Federal Aid Committee and how we're scoping projects that are getting worked in to our short-term transportation improvement project where we're getting the $80 match from the federal government and transforming roadways from a capacity and a condition standpoint. The other thing that we're also actively involved in is scoping out projects for generational awards from the federal government. With the successes that we've had with Phase 1 on Innovate Mound, we're looking at extended funding on to Phase 2 and then also structure funding for the Metropolitan Parkway Bridge. And what all of this advocacy work has done for us, it's put us in a leadership role to reconcile legislative matters at the state of Michigan. When most recently we were up in Lansing testifying on the fact that Macomb County was going to be deficient $2 million in capacity projects just because of a funding formula that was drafted in the 1980s. That's not the way we should approach the modern infrastructure challenges that we collectively face. And we're going to fight for every single one of those dollars to bring those resources home. And I think the most important thing about this is the fact that we've engaged our legislative partners in both the House and the Senate at the state and both parties, and we've made tremendous inroads in not only understanding the complexities of these problems, but developing solutions. Whether it's Rep. Menser, who's helped us convene this group of thought leaders, or whether it's Rep. Green's leadership in developing legislative solutions. And when we're looking at these big funding gaps, and when we're looking at even larger funding needs, the most important thing is here in Macomb County, we will remain dedicated, honest about the fact that if we fix the fundings, we can fix the roads. And with this ever-growing network of partners and the continued advocacy of everyone here in this room, I think we're going to continually find ways to invest in the infrastructure needs across Macomb County. So now I'm going to throw it back to Mark, and then we're going to highlight some of the projects that we've got coming down the pipeline.
Thank you, JP. Appreciate it. And again, interesting enough, as he was talking, JP talking about these numbers, that issue that he was talking about, that $2 million concern that we had, that wasn't just a one-time shot. That was going to be annual. We were going to lose about $2 million annually had we not have fixed that legislation. And it was JP Bryan that brought our legislators in, as he had mentioned, talking about Denise Mentor and Jamie Green, brought those two together, and the two of them recognized, okay, these people are the voice of reason. They're the ones that really understand it. They have the expertise. How do we fix it? So we helped them craft the legislation to make that change so that Macomb County wasn't deficient another $2 million. So instead of seeing an increase, we were looking at seeing a decrease here in Macomb County because of that. So credit to them and their work. I do want to add one thing to the list as I'm looking at this huge number, $2.5 billion, and we had that list up here of solutions or whatever. I just thought about this. Maybe there's another solution. We just went through an election cycle, and it was interesting. There are candidates out there, and I think I could probably find $2.5 billion. I could have found it this past election cycle. Very simply, if those folks that were out there running for office, granted they got to promote themselves, let people know it, but instead of the negative ads and all that negative conversation and the money that was spent on that, maybe if they'd stop doing that and just give us the money for our infrastructure needs, we could take care of that problem. I don't need to hear about bad things about other people during an election cycle, but I certainly need to figure out who wants to come to the table to help me solve this. Now, that was tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is, imagine the money that was spent during that election cycle, yet there are people out there talking about this very issue. When are you going to fix my road in front of my house? When are you going to redo a particular area like 22 Mile and Romeo Plank because it's a problem for congestion? So there's a lot that we could do with the money that was spent during that cycle. So with that being said, the gentleman who's going to be telling you a little bit about what you really want to hear, and that's why you're here, is how well we did in the Department of Roads of 2024, but even more importantly, what's in store for 2025 is the director of our Department of Roads, who has done an incredible job with his team of making sure that Macomb County is at the forefront of fixing roads and bridges here in the state of Michigan, but specifically in Macomb County. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Santo. Brian?
Thanks, Mark. Now, I know we're all here to get the list of 2025 projects, and I'll surely get to that. But first, I want to give you insight on what drives the Department of Roads, pun intended. As both Mark and JP have pointed out, due to limits of funding availability, the Department of Roads takes a strategic, objective, and data-driven approach to transportation asset management with a focus first and foremost on public safety, community needs, and financial responsibility and accountability. All of our jobs here at the Department of Roads are here to serve the community, serve the residents, and serve the motorists. Highlighted here are just a few of the things we do. We manage and oversee construction and maintenance projects, manage motorists and residents' service requests, ranging from fixing potholes to grading roads, providing dust control, mowing grass, to name a few. We oversee and inspect all roadway permits pulled within the right-of-way. We engineer and design all of our road, bridge, and traffic operation projects. We plan, develop, implement all of our road construction programs. We provide real-time information on construction projects, lane closures, and traffic updates. We also actively manage our roadway system through our contact center, which is right next door. When it comes to our assets and infrastructure in Macomb County that the Department of Roads is responsible for, we have more than 1,700 miles of roadways under our jurisdiction, 225 bridge structures, 830 roadway cross culverts, 900 traffic signals, 350 plus traffic cameras, and over 6,000 traffic signs. Now on to some of our programs, starting with road construction program. We construct, rehabilitate, or reconstruct our primary and local roads. Our bridge construction program. We replace, rehabilitate, and provide preventive maintenance on our bridge network. We have a pavement preservation program, one for concrete and one for asphalt. Both are very critical to the many needs of Macomb County as far as the condition of our roadways. We have a sub-reconstruction program. Townships submit projects to us for consideration for that program. That's a great program for the individual townships to submit projects for their local roads within their subdivisions. New and exciting this year that we're looking at implementing is a subdivision preservation program. That's an overlay program that can be utilized in the subdivisions. We're looking at hopefully about 5 miles of subdivision overlay that will greatly improve the condition of those deteriorated roads within those communities. We have a limestone program for the northern communities, 7 northern townships that we provide up to 3 miles of road regraveling each year for those communities. We have a non-motorized path program that is to bolster the pathways that the Macomb County motorists and residents can use and the pedestrians can use throughout the Macomb County jurisdiction. And then we have our general maintenance program that consists of crack sealing, patching and pothole repairs, grading, brining, and maintaining our gravel roads, snow and ice removal, of course, ditch cleanouts, and mowing grass. Everything we do could not take place without stakeholder engagement, community engagement, and resident engagement. For this, we rely on our core program, community outreach and education. Key factors to the success of our core program is summarized in 3 C's: collaboration, coordination, and communication. Where there are many challenges, the strength of our infrastructure relies on the strength of our community partnerships. We meet regularly with community leaders, MDOT, Federal Highway, SEMCOG, VOC, and others to identify and plan future projects. Now, on to specific projects. You will see a complete listing of our current 2024 program. That is a program that was approximately over $100 million in construction costs for the 2024 season. Some of the highlights: Garfield Road, a brand new section of roadway between 25 Mile Road. This will definitely promote the north-south thoroughfare travel throughout the middle portion of the county. Various other projects along Kelly Road, 14 to 15 Mile, we did a reconstruction. 15 Mile to South Nunley, we had a rehabilitation project. Kelly and Masonic, we reconstructed the intersection. And of course, as both Mark and JP had said, our Innovate Mountain project, which is the crown jewel and gem of Macomb County. We had a 9-mile reconstruction from I-696 to M59 that was completed over 3 years, $217 million total project. We just finished that up this year and completed the landscaping in full. We had the Washington Road Bridge over the Salt River. That was a complete replacement of that structure in Chesterfield Township. And once again, our limestone program, about a $2 million program where we involved regraveling 21 miles of gravel road within those 7 communities. And last but not least, the proposed 2025 road program. Looking ahead, we have an extensive mix of work in more than $83 million in road, bridge, and traffic improvements planned for 2025. Once again, upon finalization and approval of the projects, a full listing can be found online. To highlight just a few projects, though, we have 10 Mile Road from Sherwood Avenue to Lorraine. It's a full reconstruct. We have 10 Mile Road from Ryan to Sherwood, which is a rehabilitation. We have Garfield Road from 14 to 15 Mile, which is a total reconstruction, in reconstruction to 3-lane roadway. We have Romeo Plank, which is very critical, reconstruct and widening between 21.5 and 23 Mile Road. We're looking at getting underway next year. And I want to end on our bridge program. We have work planned on 10 bridges and culverts, including multiple bridge replacement, rehabilitation, and preventive maintenance projects throughout the county. Through strategic investments capitalizing on state funding programs, we've made significant progress on our bridge network. As far as our current conditions, as of today, out of the 225 bridges we have 201, or 89%, that are in good and fair condition. We have 13 or 6% that are in poor condition, and we have 11 or 5% that are in critical or serious condition. Of the 11 critical or serious rated bridges under our jurisdiction, we have secured funding to replace 5 of those within the next 2 years. As far as the 13 poor rated bridges, we have funding to replace or rehabilitate 5 of those within the next 2 years also. Please keep in mind bridges rated as critical or serious are load posted for safe use by the motoring public. In conclusion, I just want to give a big shout out to my staff at the Department of Roads. They are tremendous assets, and I'm very proud of every one of them for the work that they do day in and day out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Interesting enough, it's, Brian got through mentioning, some of these projects and what we've been doing here. And I know we highlight that Mound Road project, but I say we do that for this reason. I mean, that thing won national awards. And you think about it, that was one of the largest, local road projects in the history, not only in Macomb County, but the state of Michigan, a local road project. That was unbelievable, the work they've done on that. And if anybody's traveled that roadway since, they opened it up or whatever, what a marked difference. You can tell. And again, working with the contractors, working with the locals, the communities, working with the media to get the word out. So people internally really had all hands on deck to figure it out. And if we can fix that road to the extent that we did, there's absolutely no question we can fix any and every road project we have here in Macomb County because we have the team, we have the talent, as Brian just got through mentioning. I mean, there's a lot of folks here that do care, they're passionate. We're not, we tend to hear sometimes people that want to sit there and admire a problem, and try to figure out how do they, continue to let us know there's an issue. There isn't a road issue that we're not aware of. There isn't a road problem that we're not aware of. We know the problems we have. You can go to our website, macombgov.org, and click on the actual mapping, and you can see every one of the roads and the deficiencies therein. And we understand that. But again, it all comes back down to the simplest answer. Fixing the funding helps us fixing the roads. And with that, some people don't recognize or notice, but there's more to it than just the roads, the concrete, the gravel that's out there. It's the issue with the infrastructure that's embedded into the system now, I guess we're in the lead when it comes to connected corridors. The team that is here from the IT section of roads do an incredible job, kind of led by John Abraham. He was the one that kind of helped us move into the future with this. And we are so far advanced with the connectivity and what we have in our infrastructure. And JP is going to talk a little bit about that. But I just got to highlight this. We had a millage that was on the ballot just recently, and it was for, a continuation of the 911 surcharge. That had to happen, I'm going to tell you. And I'm so grateful for the public. And it's not just about public safety, meaning dispatchers having access to those that are responding to calls out there, police, fire, and EMS. It's much more than that. What we have in that contact center, which is here, and anybody wants to go visit it that's not familiar with this facility, we'll take on a tour to check it out. What we have here in Macomb County is far advanced in comparison to any other county, not only in the state of Michigan, but I dare say in the entire country. It is amazing what we have and the ability to actually understand how do we deal with traffic congestion, keeping our roadways safe, even with their connectivity to the actual signals that we have. But anything that we're finding out that the industry is working on to keep your driving experience safe, whether it's the vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to infrastructure, we have the capabilities of managing that and making it happen right here in Macomb County right now. And so we're very fortunate to be so far ahead, and I'm so thankful that the public understood the need to support that 911 millage. That was more than just public safety. It's also about public transportation here in Macomb County. And to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to bring up JP to kind of give you insight as to where we're at with that advanced technology we have with the infrastructure above ground. JP?
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. The last thing that I want to touch on today is how we have become leaders in infrastructure innovation. As Mark highlighted, the continued interest from the public to ensure that the safety and efficiency of our roads is the number one priority has given us the latitude, the bandwidth, and the necessary funding to make these modern investments in our roadway. Undoubtedly, condition and the way that our roads work are going to be the barometer of how we scope projects and everything. But because that we have one of the nation's most advanced intelligent transportation systems, it's given us the ability to bring more assets into play that's helping us take care of our roads and ensuring those that use our roads every single day can get the highest standards of safety and efficiency. As Mark kind of highlighted, it's not only the elements that we've integrated to enhance public safety and support first responders, that whether it's the signals that we have in, whether it's the real-time traffic monitoring that we're able to do, whether it's the enhanced intersections, or the ability for us to use that connected vehicle technology to make more informed decisions of rerouting cars or providing intel to those that are going to a crash scene. What these technological integrations are focused on is not only informing those here at our Department of Roads how to continue to scope these projects and build these roads to the greatest ability that we can, but most importantly, ensure that they're seamlessly integrated into our growing infrastructure ecosystem. What we have done is we have created a living laboratory where day in, day out, there is this feedback loop from those transportation experts within our Department of Roads, with our friends in the Sheriff's Office, with our friends in information technology, with transportation stakeholders at the region and the state level that are feeding this information into this massive decision-making tree as far as what these projects look like, how we're scoping them, and most importantly, how they're tied into these tremendous assets that we have with ComTech and our Information Command Center. With these assets in play, we've also been able to open up additional funding opportunities that's bringing in millions of dollars from our federal and regional partners for our, coordinated safety management plans and how it's working into asset management strategies and how we're also looking at complete streets priorities on those ends too. These are industry-leading practices, and it's also opening up avenues for us to work with folks on the private sector side. So whether it's emerging mobility companies, whether it's engineering firms that are coming into scope roads here, all of these assets are providing us with additional opportunities to strengthen our infrastructure network and most critically, bring in additional dollars to Macomb County. It's an incredibly advantageous position to be in, and being a leader in intelligent transportation will ensure that next generation of automobiles will continue to utilize all the assets of our roadways, but most importantly, will have a strategic economic advantage for us and ensure those vehicles are continued to be built in Macomb County and Southeast Michigan.
So,
Mark, back to you.
thank you, JP. You can tell what a decade and a half difference is when JP gets up and speaks, and Brian and I, we still have note cards, and JP's got that tech thing that he uses all the time. So with that being said, we're going to open it up for any questions that any of you may have. But understand this, that people are going to have the ability to connect with us beyond what we've just seen up here. There's a lot of information in a very short period of time. Brian kind of whizzed through the projects through 2025, obviously, I guess so that we didn't make this an hour and a half presentation. Highlighted some of the more important ones that we're going to be seeing that people are going to be talking about. But if you need that information, you can go to our website, macombgov.org, or just go to the Department of Roads. Even on macombgov.org, it's one of the highlighted areas that you can just connect to, and all of those projects will be available to you so that you can see and have a better understanding of what's taking place here in Macomb County. And again, I repeat and I say it over and over again, those are just a fraction of the number of roads and projects that we need to get to fix the roads here in Macomb County, 41% that are our responsibility, but we continue to move ahead along with our partners from the various local municipalities, and we're going to make that happen. You can also log on to that site, and if you haven't, I encourage you to do so. If you're looking for updates that are almost instantaneous about road projects, road closures, things that are happening in Macomb County, you will get that information, whether you want to sign up through your phone, if you want to do it through text messaging and or email. These are things that are going to be more useful to you than the text messages and emails you got during this past election cycle, all right? It's going to be some good information. And again, it will tell you they're closing a lane down. They are closing a road down. they just opened that road. Even if it's a major incident that happens, not just a road project that we're working on. If there's something that happens with flooding, if there's something that happens because there's a bad accident, we have that connectivity because of Comtech and the folks that we're doing in our communications led by Eric and his team. We're very fortunate that we're stepping up our game here in Macomb County with making sure the public has a better understanding of what we're doing real time with our roads here in Macomb County. So with that, I will open it up. If there happens to be any questions about some of the projects or information that you have been given here today, we'll be more than happy to answer that. Okay, seeing that there is none, we'll move on.
One question, can you maybe talk a little bit about how you figure out what's top priority for roads to be addressed? You had your list of projects for next year, about a year. I know those aren't the only.
Yeah. I'll simplify and turn it over to Brian. But again, we bring all those partners together. And again, there's always, I call it the me versus we factor. You always got somebody, I want mine. You got to take care of mine. I have to have this. But they don't understand the extent of their municipal issue and their particular roadway is not even comparable to some of the major projects that we have. And unfortunately, some of them just don't have the match funds, and we have to sit there and wait for that to happen because we cannot from the Department of Roads just say, you know what, we're going to cover that cost anyways. The law prohibits it. The law is very restrictive and requires the match from a local municipality. So again, it's a challenge sometimes because you have one or two personalities that sometimes don't see the big picture, but that's our role. And so we will take that hit, and we understand that. So Brian, I don't know if you wanted to kind of throw a little bit more into that.
Yeah, just as Mark said, it's through our core program, our community outreach and education program. It's a collaboration, communication and coordination with all the communities, with our maintenance staff. They go out and travel the roads daily. They let us know what roads are in detriment and need dire repairs. Pretty much job security here. We have been underfunded for road funds in Michigan for decades, so there's a lot of roads to fix and redo. Coordination with communities, their wants and needs, balanced with what funding availability we have and what we can do in those communities to help them out. So it's a long, drawn-out process, but like I said, it's collaboration, communication, and coordination, with all the communities and all stakeholders.
Any other questions, concerns? All right, just want to make that shorter than my state of the county, but it was necessary to get this information out because it's a new way of kind of introducing our road projects to the public and to the media. So I don't know if anybody else is doing that around the state, but we thought it's important because communications is key. And shortly we're going to be turning it over. Harold Hall, one of our county commissioners, who happens to be vice chair, who won overwhelmingly, by the way, 99%, some write-in person or whatever, but let's just say 100% of the vote because everybody was afraid to run against him. So with that being said, Harold's going to get that information along with the rest of the board. And again, this is something we do on a yearly basis. The only thing different this time is we kind of went public to let everybody know exactly what these projects are because let's face it, I think it's the number one thing I hear about each and every day is about when you're going to fix those roads and what are you going to do about those bridges and letting people know that we are working on that and we got a great team here making that happen. I'm Mark Hackle and I approve of this message. Hopefully it's the last time you have to hear that. So, all right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.